Hello everyone, this is Gautami Madhuri Chandrasekhar Kamre, CSI Publicity Head, and your host for this podcast. And today we have someone who turns data into impact and quite literal. So, please welcome Rujuta Lanke, Senior Data Analyst at American Express, an alumni who's been at the labs of Vidyalankar Institute of Technology, Mumbai, to the offices of American Express in New York with a master's in business analytics from Syracuse University's Whitman School of Management. From Mumbai to New York, from code to analytics, her journey is inspiring. It has a blend of curiosity, courage, and clarity. So, welcome, Rujuta. It's so lovely to have you here back with us again. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. That was a very warm welcome. I'm doing amazing and happy Diwali. I
Happy
would love
Diwali
to
to
start
you
the
too.
podcast like that.
So, before we dive into the deep stuff, let's start with a fun question. If you had to explain data analytics, but to a 10-year-old, so how would you do that?
That is so interesting. I feel it's all about storytelling, right? And I keep talking about it all the time of how you can. I feel data is just like very basic, okay? If you look at the example of a car, you can say data is the fuel, but then storytelling is the wheel. Like if you can't give direction to your analytics, to your data, then it's as good as nothing. So to a 10-year-old, it would just be my advice of making sense of what's given to you right now in this point, and whatever you have currently, trying to build a better future based on it. I don't think so. A 10-year-old is really interested in the future or data analytics, but it's just that would be like an example, the car example, which I would give that, we have so much, we have the fuel and everything, but if we want to get to another point, we need to make use of that current data that we have. So,
Okay.
yeah, but interesting question. I like it.
Okay, so that's a great way to kick off things now. So let's rewind
Mhm.
a bit. What like was analytics always something that you wanted to do, or there was a moment when you realized, oh, that is where I belong?
So I wouldn't say analytics was always like the part of the plan, but looking back now I feel like, it was maybe meant to be, because honestly I don't see it as like a 360-degree shift from engineering to analytics. I feel the core is very much the same. The way you approach a problem, the way you think through about what's happening and why it's happening. So engineering gave me a really strong base to that, and big shout out to Vidyalankar for that. And I think it just gives you a structure into the way of thinking, but also it gives you the flexibility to move into data later on. Like from an artistic background, moving into data is different, is like difficult, but when you actually have like a computer science background, it's just very much the same domain. And I feel I've always had an analytical streak in me, like spotting patterns, digging into why of things, like as simple as when you see cricket scores being posted on the Google. Like who's doing that? How is that being updated in real time? I would have questions like that. So, and I feel it was during lockdown in peak third year of my engineering. I feel it's sort of all clicked because we'd be sitting at home reading about companies who predicting their future. They're making these billion-dollar decisions just based on the data that they currently have, and trying to make sense out of it and making these risky choices of how to make it better in the future. So it just got me hooked because it was so much like a mix of logic as well as intuition. And I feel like if you're not just writing a code, and I feel you always know if you love to code or you don't. And I knew that I didn't want to be just behind the screens coding. I I wanted to be more in the space where I'm closer to the real world, to the customers who we build these products for, and like have a real connection with them and see how all these systems that we keep building all the time, how is it working for them. So that's why I jumped into analytics.
Okay, love that. Absolutely. And if you had to name one turning point which ultimately led you to American Express, what would that be?
So honestly, this is like quite personal because I feel like before this Amex opportunity showed up,
Okay.
I went through like quite a few rounds of interviews with all different companies. But one that stuck with me forever was like it was this intense 3 month interview process with Meta for a data engineer role. And after clearing like 6 rounds, I was rejected in the final one, and that was brutal. That was hard, especially for someone like I was a fresher when I came here, right? So when a opportunity like this comes across, you feel like it's maybe once in a lifetime. Like you don't usually expect that. So I poured my everything into it. Like the process had like no weekends, no distractions, just giving mock interviews, doing lead code and all that kind of stuff. But the outcome wasn't in my favor. So here's the twist, like though that experience did not um, really work out in the way I wanted to, but it was an extraordinary training ground. It taught me how to operate under pressure, how to sometimes even fail gracefully, and how to accept feedback. Because during that process, I got an opportunity to speak to all these top minds of the apps that like Instagram, Facebook, like YouTube, our life runs around it, and like being able to have conversations for hours with people who make those apps, who run them, that was a very good opportunity for me. And so by the time Amex opportunity showed up, it was very natural to me. The interview process felt I felt so confident because I prepared myself very well for it to show up. And on top of that, I'd say that I always felt a pull towards fintech because in big tech, it's incredible to work there, but most of the hiring streams are heavily focused on coding and software development. And I wanted something more. As I mentioned before, I wanted like a space where I meet customers, where I feel like every day I'm doing a real impact. So when Amex came calling, I realized why Meta didn't work out, and I feel like that was a turning point in my life. It was like a forcing function. It pushed me to learn things which I wouldn't have if that opportunity did not show up. So we always, keep listening that rejection is redirection, and it's very easy. Like people keep saying that, and it's very easy. It's easier said than done. But when things actually happen, when you put into those situations, and eventually things work out, you know that it's true, and it all happens for a reason. So yeah.
That's such an inspiring one. So,
Yeah.
not just that the
Thank
turning point can open such a new entire path for you. So, speaking of
you.
paths, let's talk about the world you work in today. Okay, so fintech, right? Fintech, it sounds sleek and futuristic. But what's the real experience like from your seat at Amex? So, how does working in fintech differ from what you thought imagined back in college?
That is such an accurate and an amazing question. I'm so glad you asked. So it's so different. Like I couldn't explain. Like it's so different, but in the best possible way. When we're in school or even during masters, we imagine this data analytics as this clean, perfect world. You get data, you write a query, you get an output, and everyone's happy. Everyone's praising you. But no, that's not what it is. It's very
Okay.
messy. We're talking of millions and billions of rows of Excel sheets. The timelines are so tight. This data is coming from so many different sources. It's in so many different formats. So one biggest realization for me is like in the real world, there's no perfect solution to a problem. like how it was in school in academics. We knew how, we knew like what we were looking for, but here it's all trial and error. If it's about constantly iterating, learning, being on the top of all the relevant things which are in the market right now. It's not just building a beautiful dashboard, because we would do that in college and get the best marks and we were sorted. But here, if that dashboard is not driving a business decision or it's not solving a problem, then you will be asked to scrap it, because it's of no use, no matter how beautiful it is. Especially where I work, like it's such a customer centric company that it changes everything. We are constantly thinking from the shoes of a customer. Like if I were using that product and if I were paying that for that product, then what would I expect out of it? And that's the biggest difference from the academic expectations. Because we do keep listening about terms such as collaboration and communication in college.
Right.
But when you enter the real world, it just makes so much sense, because you can't just sit on your desk in your office every single day, come do your work and leave. Like you obviously do have to do that, because you can't have that job anymore if you don't do that. But it comes down to creating an impact, right?
Right.
To making your own identity in that place. So I feel it's all about creating impact. You need to talk to new people, you need to approach people, especially when you are in office. There's like senior leadership around you, sometimes you cross paths with a stakeholder. So how confidently you put yourself out there, how you approach them, how when they ask you about your day, how excitement you show that you love working there, and you know you love coming across new opportunities every day. So that's such an interesting take on that, you know, of the difference in academics and working at a company. And also, other thing that I would like to point out is it's not about fancy algorithms or, you know, spending hours in code or being behind the screen. It's actually about making the right decisions and solving like real problems. So analytics, it does come down to analytics, but it's just a thread that just joins everything together. It's like a foundation that you build for better decision making. Analytics is not the answer to the decision, it's just a medium. So that was really cool to see, you know, that it's just about predictions. And the biggest difference here was like, to put it in simple words, is like we learn how to build models in school, but we learn how to build those models and create our own intuition in real world. And that's why people have so much respect for experienced colleagues and experienced um, people in the field, because they bring that intuition which we don't learn on academic level.
Right. So that was a smart peek into the industry. So now,
Yeah.
without revealing too much of your secret tip, can you tell us what kind of mindset shift has genuinely transformed your career or your daily life?
Actually, I don't mind revealing it,
Oh, okay.
because because I feel like giving back to the place where it all started. It's just only a pleasure.
Wow.
And so, because this is one of those things that completely changed the way I think, and I would love it to share it, especially with my peers. So I learned it from someone else, that we're all like salespeople. Every single one of us, whether we realize it or not, at some point we're selling ourselves, we're selling our ideas, or we're selling our skills. So the biggest shift for me was understanding that it's not about selling yourself, it's actually selling the future state of the person you're talking to. So this might sound very complicated, but I'll give you a very simple example. So when I'm interviewing with someone for a role, and I'm just constantly talking about the projects I worked on and how hard I worked and how many skills I acquired, That's not going to help me. What really helped me when I shift my focus was how will their life, how will their job become easier when they hire me? And then I talk about my skills. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when I shift my focus from myself to their betterment, to the idea of, them having a better future if they have me in their life. So this helps on both personal and professional level. That's a very powerful skill. Like, because people don't want to buy your present, they just want to buy the better future that you create for them in their head. It may not even be true, but you're just trying to sell that idea.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same in everything, whether you're pitching yourself for a role or you're building a product for customers, even for entrepreneurs. It's not just about what is right now. It's about how it makes their lives better later. So the idea of selling possibility has been a total shift for me. It's simple but so powerful, and it takes time to absorb and try to uh, accommodate in your everyday life. And I really hope, like, everyone listening to this, if they take out something from this podcast, it has to be this one small tip, and that would be a success for me.
That's a very important tip then. So,
Yeah.
next question up we have, what's one philosophy or a small habit that keeps you grounded or inspired even on your like hectic days?
So honestly, there is no one magical habit that you inculcate in your routine and wow, your life is like transformed. It's those small things that you keep doing every single day. And I haven't come across one habit that changed my life altogether. And if you do, please let me know. I would love to learn. But what has changed for me over time is my approach towards things. I've realized that tiny habits, when done consistently, they really compound over time. And even something as simple as spending 15 minutes a day trying to learn something new, which I have done consciously in my life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's as small as learning a new word, learning about a new book, learning about a new author, anything, like learn one new thing every single day. Because in this world, especially for us, where we're on the tech side, the fintech side, everything's evolving so fast. Today you learn something and tomorrow there's something new out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be like a sponge for knowledge. By that, I don't mean like overwhelm yourself, but just have the mindset of learning no matter what. Like, every single day, try to learn something new. It could be very small, it could be as small as a new recipe or how to fast track your cooking or fast track the work that you do currently, even in your professional life. I feel that has just kept my curiosity alive. And even when something's bad, if even if I didn't have the best day, but if I learn something new, I just feel content ki it wasn't as bad. Like, so that's just helped me really a lot to make myself a better version of me. Like, tomorrow when I wake up, I knew something more than I did yesterday. So that has been like a very good mindset adapting habit for me.
Okay, that was really important. Need to focus on small habits and doing it every day.
Yeah,
Um,
I know everyone keeps saying that it's very easy to say, but when you keep doing it, you do see the results, long term.
so, Yushita, you often you are highlighting about how storytelling data is important and it's such an underrated superpower. So, what do you have to say about it?
It's actually funny that when people hear about data, they immediately think about spreadsheets and dashboards and SQL queries, and that's what even I did too. Everything about data sounds so technical, but what we forget is about telling it into the form of story, which is going to give it meaning. And you can have the most accurate analysis in the world. Like, every number could be cross verified, every chart could be built perfectly, but if you can't accommodate what it means, it's almost useless. Like, better don't do it, save some time. That's what advice like we've heard, that you need to be able to convey the message. because at the end of the day, the person you're presenting to, whether it's leadership, it's a stakeholder, or even a client, whoever you're working with, they're not going to remember what filters you used. They're not going to remember what pretty conditional formatting you have given to your Excel sheet. They're only going, no, like, no one really cares about that. They're only going to remember what insight you drew and what and how you told a story from whatever analysis you did and what words you chose. And that's all they think about, that's all they care about. And I feel that data could tell you what's happening, but storytelling will tell you why it matters. Like, for example, if something is down 10%, but why is it down 10%? And what does that mean for us? And is it good? Is it bad? How do we do to improve it if it's bad? So that's where the real value is, right? Analysis will just tell you, oh, it's down 10%, but does the story end there? No, right? That's just where it began.
Right.
So this is where a lot of analysts miss out, because they get more focused on the technical side and they feel that that's all their job and that's their duty, and they forget to connect it back to the business problem or to the people they're solving this problem for. So far in my career, which has not been a lot, uh, I feel I've seen this powerful. I've sensed how powerful storytelling can be, and sometimes it's not about the person with the best technical skills, who takes the credit away or who drives the room. It's always the one who makes everyone feel valued, who makes everyone learn about those insights, what they drew after they did this analysis. Because if people feel valued and important, then they're going to give you more respect, right? So it all comes down to that.
That's such a good way to put it, and it's important to understand that because we as a students also mostly focus on how we can, make our dashboards look good, our Excel sheets good.
Exactly.
Instead, we should
And I feel
actually.
that is important. Like for earlier in your career, that is important because that is the base. But these things are which help you later in your life. And I feel we should start earlier and trying to build them slowly.
Right. So, what would you suggest to us, like the ones who usually put in efforts into these things, which are, of course, important, but again, we need to understand how we can actually interpret those data properly, and how we can also, make it like what you are saying that way. So, what do you think that even now we can start doing? That skills which you like earlier also mentioned that how it is important to not just look into the technical stuff but also see things, see the problems, try to solve real problems. So what do you
Right.
say that?
So, when we're starting off, we feel this pressure to know everything. Like when we feel like we want to master, we want SQL and Tableau and Power BI and everything, and we want all of those skills on our resume, and we feel that's like perfect decision for us. But we do forget that sometimes how to communicate those skills is the biggest factor. So I feel that instead of being too hard on yourself of learning every skill, trying to in fact um, talk to non-technical people and trying to explain your work to them, I feel that's very important, and that's how we can start from the beginning. Because on the flip side, there are people who are incredible communicators. They can sell any idea beautifully. They are like sales people. You talk to them and you would know that they are in sales because they are so good with their work. But then they don't go deep enough into the technicality, or they don't have enough substance to their words, because you can't just be all words, you need to be numbers and words. So that's the balance you need to find out. And so early in your career, yes, focus on your technical foundation, learn how to solve problems, write good queries, try to optimize it, try to see how you can save time. I feel that's when you get more bandwidth to work on your soft skills, because it's very important as from people who are us with our background, that we cannot have not strong, or like, I don't want to say weak, but not strong enough technical skills. So very, very important to have a good foundation in that. But then trying to explain those insights to a non-technical friend, to a manager, to a family member, because if you can't explain it clearly, what I've learned is you probably don't understand it deeply in yourself enough. Because if you understand it deeply, you are able to convey that. So that's, I feel, like the first step, which even I was advised to do, to bring, the technical and soft skills together, because it's not two different worlds. It's, you can say, it's two sides of the same coin.
Okay, so balance of both the parts. Fine then.
Yeah.
These are such valuable key takeaways. Now, I believe our listeners would really love to know a practical career advice when next, so kind that helps us in to take some actions. So, what in your view are like projects which we make in our colleges are like genuinely impressive?
I think we really tend to overcomplicate what an impressive project means. You you don't need to feel the need to build the next chat GPT or something that's like super complex, AI driven. What I feel, in my opinion, what actually stands out is, how does, you might now feel that I'm repeating the same thing, but how does your project tell a story? Like when it solves a problem and shows that you understand what the purpose of your project is, what the purpose of you collecting all this data and working on it is. Like instead of just doing another random Kaggle data set, pick something very personal and very relatable, which you feel that every day you have this issue. Could be the very smallest one, but if you feel that, oh, this, there is a potential on, we can work on this and make it better, I feel those projects in today's world have a lot more value than just doing traditional projects. Like, for example, analyzing, we all love music, right? So analyzing Spotify, listening to the trends, trying to learn Spotify recommendation system. When we talk about Netflix, we watch a show and then we get 10 different recommendations based on the
Mama,
same
नको
genre,
करू ना.
right? Trying to understand it, how is that happening? Trying to predict food delivery times in your areas. Like these are a couple of projects that I did in my academics, and when I gave interviews in companies, they would really be intrigued into these kind of projects,
Okay.
because they would also be using that product and facing that situation, and they also love to learn that what was going on in the back end, that those recommendations were coming to me. So I feel doing that, like, it's not about what you're building, but also what you're learning along that way. Maybe that project would not end up in the way you wanted to, but the things you learn along the way are so important. And like, my professor in my master's said this one line to me, which, when we decided to have this podcast, I knew I had to say it to you guys as well. It was, if your project can make someone go, oh, that's really interesting, and oh, I face that in my life, in the first 10 seconds, then you've already won, because now they're hooked. Now, even if your output or your end result is not what they thought, but in the beginning they felt like you were solving a problem related to their life, I feel you like won there.
Okay. And also earlier, like you mentioned, we need to be in connect with other people. So that is what networking is about, all about. So what do you think like would be a good way in early for professionals like us, for us to approach networking like naturally and authentically, like without feeling it forced or awkward?
That is such an important question, honestly, because everyone keeps saying, "Go network, go talk to people, go do this, go do that," but no one really tells you like how to do it without feeling awkward or fake, like you mentioned. So for me, it was all about authentic networking. Like, do not reach out to people just because you want a job. Like, don't do that. reach out because you genuinely are curious about their work, about their journey, or the company itself. You just want to know what it's like to work in that company, what it's like to know about their daily routine, what their life looks like in 9 to 5. Even if you don't end up working there, but you're just so curious that you want to know about the culture, about the people, etc. So when I was job hunting, I never messaged people like, "Hey, I came across this position and I have the skills. Can you please refer me?" Like it's, I feel you already killed it. Like killed it in a bad way over there. Like it's dead. The conversation is dead. Like instead, I would go through their profile. I would try to find out something that we had in common, something that I could connect with him on a personal level, and then maybe shared interest, and then try to build a conversation, and try starting, because then you have a foundation and then you can build on top of that. So I feel alumni networking in that way helps you so much because you already have something in common. Like it's on your profile, you don't need to explain that to someone else, and it's very easy to reach out to your alumni. And so when I reach out to people, I'd say things like, "Hey, I really loved your perspective on this post. If I see that they've posted something online, they've commented on some post that came on my feed, would love to know more about this and your approach and how you got into the role." And you'll be surprised when people sense that you're coming from a place of genuine curiosity and not just transaction. They actually love to open up. And I feel in today's world where everyone values networking, right? It's not just you and me, it's like everyone out there also. Everyone wants to do it. So it's very awesome and amazing to see how people open up. And I myself, when I look back, I almost had a 70% of response rate. Like most of the people would always get back when you reach out, because if they sense the authenticity. And but that does not happen overnight. That takes time. So tomorrow, if there's an application deadline and today I'm reaching out to somebody, then obviously I can't build a foundation and I can't build a bond, right? So it's very important to start early, so you get that time. You're not forced to not build a connection. And also another very, very important thing is never, never, never underestimate the power of a follow-up message. It's so important. It's more important than we realize. Like just a small note doesn't have to be another scheduled meeting on your calendar, but a very small note that, "Hey, your advice really helped," or, "Hey, I'm still working on it. Maybe like this takes time, but I'm still working on your suggestions." And that just goes a long way because you make that person feel valued, right? They gave you your 30 minutes and now you took away at least one thing and now you're working on it. So building those connections, healthy, genuine bonds, it's very important to start early and don't forget to follow up.
Okay, that's an honest take. So, authenticity is the theme which keeps people connected.
Yeah.
Okay, so now speaking of the same thing, now it brings me to the part where success is also evolving, right? So, for young professionals who feel that pressure to, constantly prove themselves, so what's your advice for staying grounded?
Let me take a moment because that hit close, because I've been there, and honestly, I still go there sometimes. Uh, that moment when you realize, you know it, we all know it. You're just scrolling through your social media and it feels like everyone's got it figured out, right? Especially in Gen Z, everyone's an entrepreneur, everyone's a creator, everyone's
Right.
doing so much better than you feel you are at that moment. And sometimes I'm just doing my laundry, trying to keep my sane while watching these Instagram stories, and I feel we've all been there. And when you talk it to like millennials or bloomer people, it's they feel that it's all in your head, but no, the pressure is real, and you can't just dismiss it by saying, "Oh, it's all in your head." So what helped me is realizing that no one's really ahead or behind. I've started having a lot of faith in the idea that we are all exactly where we are meant to be. Not ahead, not behind, just where we're supposed to be in this moment. We are here and like it's all working out for us. So we also have to remember that we all started from different places, right? We had different privileges, we had different timelines. Most importantly, we had different emotional bandwidth and capacity to deal with things. So yeah, there's always going to be catching up to do. Someone's always doing better than you, and you'll always be doing better than someone else too. And honestly, I feel social media has completely changed the way we look at success. And it's for both, it's for the better and the worse. Talking about me personally, I see people doing incredible things online, especially in your 20s when everyone's like on completely different timelines, right? Someone's getting married, someone's getting promoted uh, in 2 years, and someone just traveling the world, living their best life. And on the flip side, it's very easy to say that don't compare, but it's so easy to go into that spiral of comparison, right?
Right.
Um, but I feel everyone's like honestly doing great. I don't want to give a pep talk, but I've made myself like a conscious effort to remind myself that social media is just a reel. It's just the best 30 seconds of their life. No one's posting the 10,000 retakes that they shot before those 30 perfect seconds of their life. And that just helps me keep sane. And also, this one cultural shift when I noticed when I came to the US was no one really cares of what you're doing. Like that's one thing that stuck with me, like in the best possible way. No one gives a damn about you and your life and what you're going through. Like in India, we grew up thinking so much about other people's opinions, what they say, what they think, what if I disappoint someone. Especially like Indian parenting, where we are their world and they are our world, and we don't want to disappoint anyone. But and it's just a very big part of how we operate, but that's so different here. People genuinely don't care about what you're doing as long as you're not hurting anyone. So if you feel like doing something is the right thing for you, you should do it irrespective of the fear of being judged. And whenever I come back home, I'm going to come back with that mindset that if something is genuinely good for me, I don't need societal approval for that, and I'm not on anyone else's timeline. So that helps me, be sane in social media. And like one last thing, if we're constantly staring at someone else's garden, we can never bloom in ours, because our energy is all saturated there and it's not here. So maybe we're just helping them bloom more if you're concentrated there. So focus on yourself. That's what I do.
That's a refreshing perspective, of course. Like, I think like everyone can relate to this mindset. So now let's move on to a bit hands-on tech tool stuff and skill building, especially. So, what do you believe? Like, do you believe that it's better to master one skill or tool set deeply, or like just SQL or just Python, or like explore a variety of different things to stay versatile?
Yeah. So honestly, early in your career, it's about balance. You need to experiment enough to know what you enjoy. You can't just, decide, oh, they are doing good at that, so maybe even I'll be good at that. No, you need to find your thing, and that comes with exploration. For example, I explored a bunch of visualization tools and everything, SQL, Tableau, Power BI, everything. And then when I came across SQL, I felt comfort there. I felt like it made more sense to me there. I felt like I could adapt to that approach more. And I think it's important, don't just pick a tool because it's trending. Pick one because you actually connect with it. You want to go deeper into it, and you'll just know when something clicks. You just feel the pull towards it. And having that said, in today's world, it's so important to stay aware of other tools out there. Even if you don't use them daily, you need to know what they're used for and have a basic understanding so you're not disconnected from the world. You might master one, but you still need to have an understanding of how the other tools also tie down together. And if I could go back, I would focus more on my foundations instead of chasing every new tool out there, because when you're starting out, it's just so easy to get overwhelmed, right? Because you see all of these powerful tools and now AI. It feels that you need to you need to catch up to so many things. But I feel if your foundation is strong, that it all comes down to logic, and the logic never changes. The system would change, everything, like the working style would change, but the logic never changes. And that's been a game changer for me, that when I started focusing on SQL and data modeling, these have been my two greatest strengths. I genuinely felt, no matter what role you're in, if you have a strong foundation in these two areas, it could be different for you, because you anyway just going to use that as a metric to compare to other tools. So once you understand how the data is structured properly, you can always use any other tool with that context. So let's be patient and let's try to master one thing at a time, but still be connected to others.
So that being said, like we have new tools which are trending and every few months, and then so many new technologies coming up. So how do you avoid getting lost in the noise and like stay focused on what truly matters?
Yeah, that's so difficult, right? The tech
Yeah.
world is moving so fast. You don't get time to learn anything, because there's already like five other things new in the market until you learn one. So I feel even at this moment, something new is being launched or being hyped, and it's just impossible to keep up with everything. And that's really helped me in filtering trends with these simple questions. One, does this actually help me do my job better? Or two, does it make my work efficient and help me save some time? I asked these two questions before like digging into the need of, learning a new tool. Because if the answer is no, I would just guilt free skip it. Because right now, um, this is that approach that I'm following. I'm sure it will evolve over time, but it's taught me to focus on fundamentals that never go out of style. I would always learn on how to make my logic more clean, more better, how to optimize my work, how to do better documentation, how to become a better communicator. These things I always keep learning on, and I never contemplate on that. But then when it comes to new learning, I don't want to do it out of FOMO. I want to do it because I really feel the need to do it. And just as I said, there is a lot of noise, but the logic never changes. If your fundamentals are strong, you would never feel the need, or you will never feel that you're missing out on anything. Because if it doesn't, if you're doing absolutely well in your job right now, and this learning new skill is not going to add a value to your life, you, so I don't think there's a pressure of learning it.
Okay, so focusing on logic over frenzy is what I get it.
Yes. See.
Okay.
So,
So, now before we wrap up, let's end on the reflective and a fun note and the questions. So, without like you being in America right now, so I would like to know about how your day-to-day life and what's happening over there with your office. How, like, what do we say? Your whole day or whatever. If you're like it's Diwali right now, so you must be missing your family too. So
yeah,
how things are there? Would like to know that.
I feel it was so different while I was a student. It was so wholesome while I was a student, because um, you're all in the same situation, right? Everyone's away from home. Everyone's like there. So even during festivities, you come together and you celebrate it. But it's very different when you're working, because everyone's now moved to a different city. Everyone has different priorities. Um, your only priority as a student was after work to come home, have dinner together, and chill. But that's not right now, right? Because maybe we can't. We're all so spread out that we can't meet as much. So I feel. it just built a lot of character. I feel everyone in their 20s, it's a genuine advice from me, have to move out of their house. Doesn't have to be into a different country altogether, but just doing things on your own, coming out of your comfort zone, you you will learn so many things about yourself that you didn't know you were capable of doing. As small as when I moved here, the winters were so harsh. The sun would set at 3 p.m. It would be pitch dark until 5. And we come from Bombay, we've not seen that. I would miss home so much back then. But then it just builds discipline, right? Even if it's pitch dark and I have a 5 to 8 p.m. class, I will go there because I was there on a vision, on a mission. So I feel that just built a lot of character, and figuring things like health insurance and house insurance and all of this. We've never done it back home, right? I feel our parents just keep us so safe from this world that we don't have the need to do or take care of these things. So I feel that moving to a new country, to a new city, builds a lot of character, and everyone should please do it. Do it for yourself, do it on your own, experience independence. It's amazing, it's liberating. And talking about everyday life here, it's very simple. You cook, you clean, you work, you sleep, and you try to. I'm now trying to involve working out in that. It's just so overwhelming. Everything's just like you need to take care of yourself, right? How much are you going to depend on your friends? They have their own battles to face. So I feel work life and student life was a very big transition for me. Uh, but it's in a good way, right? I no more have exams. I'm flexing that in front of you. I only have deadlines, which is also very interesting. So I feel if you want to know more about the cultural shocks, it's going to take a lot of while. I'm going to keep talking and talking. But one cultural difference I think we should all take is like not care about the societal judgment. Like maybe you guys don't, or you Gen Zs. Like I was born in 2000, okay? But everyone who's born after like 2002, they have a different level of energy and confidence in them, which is a very good thing. But like doing things, stopping yourself from doing things which are important to you just because others are going to judge you. I think that I've completely stopped in the US because no one's giving like no one gives a cares. I don't want to use this word, but like no one cares. So yeah, that's it. When like you are living alone in the US, and I'm planning of visiting home soon. It's been over 2 years. I haven't come back.
Oh,
So probably this winter I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna be visiting college. So it would be amazing if I can meet you guys. I will definitely meet Amit sir, but looking forward to meet you, Gautami, Ira.
hopefully too we can meet you also. Waiting for you to come back then. It was such a
Yeah.
wholesome note to end on. So Rujita, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure like hearing your journey and the wisdom behind it. And from sharing your experiences on reflecting on the growth and balance, you have reminded us how success is really about evolving, learning, and staying grounded. So
I love it. I love the keywords you used.
as those are the all the things which you have explained, I've just tried to collect everything back, and it was really nice talking to you. And as juniors, we are really genuinely proud of you, and we are really proud how far you have come, and really wishing, hoping that you go beyond that. Also wishing you continued success and new milestones to you know
Thank you so
cross.
much. That's the warmest wish that I've got.
And
Thank you
Vidyalankar is
very
truly
much.
proud of you. So that's really amazing. It was really amazing talking to you. And to everyone who are tuning in today, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. I'm Gautami signing off. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep inspiring.